If there's one thing the movies taught me, it's that time machines, when they're finally invented, will be completely impractical. Either they'll be built out of a cramped phone booth, or a ridiculously ostentatious sports car, or a comfy chair with attached roulette wheel, I guess? But the super low-budget movie Primer bucks that trend. Here, we get a time machine built with what looks like present-day technology. As a result, it feels like something that could exist in the real world. The whole movie achieves the same level of plausibility by having an almost documentary-like feel. This approach makes it one of the most engrossing time travel movies ever made, for the first hour at least. After that, it devolves into a confusing muddle of causality loops and overlapping timelines that no human being could possibly hope to understand after a single viewing. I was about to say this review contains major spoilers, but then I realized it's impossible to spoil Primer. You can't spoil a movie that has no ending. Primer is from first-time director Shane Carruth, who not only wrote, produced, and stars in the movie, he even composed the music. At the time, he was a software engineer having a bit of a midlife crisis, so he decided to try his hand at directing even though he had no prior filmmaking experience. Despite this, and despite a budget of only $7,000, Primer blew everyone's minds at Sundance, and took home that year's Grand Jury Prize. Interestingly, instead of getting himself attached to some major studio tentpole whatever, Carruth chose to remain an independent filmmaker. After 9 years, his self-financed follow-up Upstream Color is out, and getting lots of good reviews. So now's a pretty good time, wink, to look at his previous effort, Primer. The story focuses on two scientists, Abe, played by first-time actor David Sullivan, and Aaron, played by Carruth himself. They work on experiments in Aaron's garage, hoping for a big breakthrough that will let them sell a few patents and become millionaires. They're working on a device that uses superconductors to counteract gravity, I think. Most people won't understand what the hell they're trying to accomplish here, or all the scientific jargon they use, though to be honest, that actually adds to the realism. They create a boxy contraption from wires and sheet metal and car batteries that seems to take on a life of its own.
How about this one?
Should be 12 volts.
So what the hell is this thing?
It doesn't stay like that.
In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics!
But the old box has a few more surprises in store for them. A watch left inside for a minute registers that almost a day has passed. A toy placed inside shows signs of being inside for years, not hours. Eventually, they figure out that whatever they put inside is actually looping between 2 points in time. The time the machine is turned on, and the time it's turned off. And that's when shit suddenly gets real.
Look, I just want you to understand that what's next is not a prank, okay? I wouldn't do that to you, and I'm not doing that to you. Who's that, Abe?
Yes, Abe has already built a box large enough to accommodate a person, and used it to travel back in time. It's not long before Aaron builds a machine of his own, and for various reasons they keep them in a public storage unit. And one of the unique aspects of Primer is that time travel is never shown to be as easy as pulling a lever or driving through a gateway. A time traveler wanting to go back one day must actually lie inside a dark, cramped compartment for an entire day. Meaning, this time machine can't take you back to any arbitrary date in the past. The farthest you can go back is the exact moment the machine was turned on, but this still turns out to have some very interesting applications. Abe and Aaron start to profit from the machine in obvious ways, like using foreknowledge of the stock market to make money day trading. They start betting on sporting events and mull over playing the lottery. But then, out of nowhere, a third guy randomly comes back through time, meaning some future version of Abe or Aaron is going to reveal the existence of the machine, but neither of them knows why. And right around here is where the film takes a hard left turn, and the plot begins to literally vanish before our eyes. It seems there's another time machine that's been running all this time, which allows the characters to travel even farther back than previously established. Also, it's possible to fold up a time machine and put it inside another time machine, leading to even more shenanigans. The final 20 minutes of this movie devolve into convoluted scenarios involving multiple versions of Abe and Aaron drugging each other, and future selves taking the place of past selves and mouthing along with recordings of past conversations. We learn about an incident that happens at a party, and for some reason, Aaron becomes obsessed with using their invention to stop it from happening in the first place. While we get a vague idea of what actually happened, it's never clear why Aaron would use a time machine, a device that could potentially change the course of human history, for the sole purpose of getting involved in a relatively inconsequential event. Given how the first hour is so compelling, it's a mystery as to why the final 20 minutes are so confusing. Did they simply lack the budget to film crucial scenes? Or was Carruth deliberately being obtuse for the sake of generating repeat viewings? I would guess it's a little bit of both. Others have written lengthy dissertations about this movie, where they chart all the mini timelines and pick up on the subtle clues that show us characters have traveled through time much more than they're letting on. I've looked through a few of these and I get the gist of it. Two guys discover a source of incredible power. One guy realizes it's too dangerous and tries to put the genie back in the bottle, but the other guy manipulates everything to make sure he comes out on top. While the various online manifestos make the film easier to understand, it doesn't make it a better movie. Primer is still a story with a beginning, middle, and no satisfying ending. All those essays might tell you the when and the how, but you'll still have no clue why the characters do most of the things that they do. It's really more of a puzzle than a movie, meaning it cares less about people acting like people than giving you, the viewer, something to figure out after the movie's over. But personally, I think that, at the very least, a movie should be compelling in the time frame in which it's being watched. The script may be a finely crafted intellectual marvel to be studied in film schools for decades, but to those who watch and enjoy movies in the moment, the final act is a huge letdown. Carruth's follow-up Upstream Color is now out in limited release, and while the advanced reviews are mostly positive, the movie looks to be just as dense and confusing. When most critics refuse to even summarize the plot, you know you're not exactly in for some light popcorn entertainment. But despite all that, I'm actually looking forward to seeing it. Carruth has already succeeded in making 2/3 of a great movie, which still puts him ahead of most filmmakers by about 2/3. So I'm optimistic about his new film, but I'm definitely not expecting to make any sense out of it.